And wonderful people, as always, I welcome you to the Mega Way. Today's show takes me out of the studio and brings me all the way to South London to meet a gentleman called Mr. Paul Silly. He's the leader of a group called Uktdm, Togolese Diaspora Movement, and we'll meet him in a tick. My guest today is Mr. Paul Silly. He's the leader of a group called Uktdm, which stands for UK Togolese Diaspora Movement. We'll take you to a brainstorm session put together by Uktdm. We meet Adele-Abodedele, a leader of one of the opposition parties in Togo. We share with you some of the protests organized by Uktdm. Then Paul shows his appreciation to Adele-Abodedele. Don't go away, we'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. I said Mr. Paul is right here with me. Paul, hello, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for having me on your show.
No problem at all. You, as I said, you're the leader of Uktdm, UK Togolese Diaspora Movement. Tell me, why and when was this group formed?
Uktdm came about last year in September exactly, and this movement was formed in response to the barbaric repression by the governments towards his own people when they were protesting against the violations of human rights in Togo. Okay. And the objective of this movement is to help put an end to all those atrocities and promote peace and establish the basis for genuine progress towards democracy and the rule of law in Togo.
Okay. I mean, the Togolese citizens here in the UK, how did they accept Uktdm when it was introduced to them?
I was so impressed about how they responded. And prior to Uktdm emerging, we had loads of phone calls from friends and families who were wondering what the UK was doing towards the struggle back home, because prior to us emerging, there were other organizations and movements that were formed in Europe and in the United States. So Uktdm, I would say, it was one of the last movements that emerged.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I know you're also linked with other organizations who are wanting to stand for the promotion of democracy in Togo. One of them is Togo the Board. Could you tell me a bit more about this?
Yes, we are also part of this collective Togolese movement called Togo Debout. And again, just like the Uktdm, Togo Debout emerged in August last year, again in response to those atrocities, that were committed by the Apartheid Union regime in Togo. And we found out we had the same aim, the same objective. So we thought it was a good idea for the Uktdm to work with Togo Debout so that we can put an end to the atrocities and the barbaric things that were taking place in Togo.
Okay. I mean, it's not easy for you to come up with an organization like this and to put yourself forward to be the front man for something like this. What are some of the challenges you faced since the formation of Uktdm?
I would say, like I said earlier, I'm, really pleased and I'm honored, really, to be, the leaders of this movement. In terms of challenges, I would say they've been really little amongst the Togolese diaspora, but I am slightly disappointed with how, the West, reacted to this movement. Because since we emerged last year, we've organized different protests. We've written to the Prime Minister, Theresa May. We've written to lots of different organizations, but their response has been really disappointing. So I would say that is the challenges that we are facing, because what we really want is to raise awareness of what is happening in Togo so that, the West, these international organizations can come in aid for the Togolese people, but the response has been really, little and disappointing.
Okay, we're going to touch on that in a little while. Talk more about a response you've been getting from the Western institution. But before we get to that, I want to find out, since you formed Uktdm, what are some of the highlights? What are some of the things you've done that really puts a smile on your face and makes you feel, wow, this is worth my while?
Yes. I've always said, those people who lost their lives fighting, for the freedom of all of us, those lives, our lives are not better than those lives. And if I put myself, myself in the family's shoes, doing this was something that, I did not regret doing. The things that have really made me, feel proud is the fact that the Togolese diaspora here in the UK, responded when I, sent out a call, to them. People travel all the way, from the north, from Birmingham, Manchester. People came all the way from Wales, to come and support us. And, they've been working with us, when it came to, fundraising, when it came to protesting and all that, they've, responded favorably. And, that's what, makes me happy and tells me that, we are in this battle together.
Wow, wow, beautiful. You organized a brainstorm session not too long ago, and let's share this with our viewers.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Sayi. I'm here in London today and I am representing Togo for Miss Africa Great Britain. So I'm here to support freedom for Togo and to get rid of the dictatorship that's been happening for around 51 years now. I think it's really important that we all take a stand at this minute because it's really now or never.
So we had 3 big London protests. Some of you have attended them all. So the first one was to Downing Street, and the second one was to Trafalgar Square, and the third one was to both the French consulate and French embassy. Only recently, less than a month ago, we joined the protest in Birmingham, we joined the protest in Berlin, we joined the protest in Brussels, and we have been going to Paris on numerous occasions to join the protest there.
So why are we doing this? We're doing this because we have a man called Fonya Sibe, who together with his father have been in power for over half a century. Just imagine, over half a century. 51 years we've been in power. And all we've known as Togolese people during that time is misery. That's all we've known. And we don't deserve that. We Togolese deserve better. If you think about our history, we shouldn't be where we are right now. And that is why we are standing together as one, as a unit, fighting uncompromisingly against the dictator that is Fonya Simbe and his mafia system that is LPT. So I would like to formally welcome you again this meeting is about sharing expertise, sharing ideas and knowledge about how we can work together and put an end to this dictatorship, to put an end to these violations of human rights that has been going on for years.
The PTA UK is a non-political association, and that is why we have set up the Uktdm now to do the political bit. And so you've been told what the Uktdm is about. We are here supporting all our brothers and sisters in the fight against the dictatorship in Togo, so that we can pull Togo out of the misery in which he's been for the last half a century. In Togo, we've got enough resources to feed all our people. We've got enough resources to provide health for all our people. We've got enough resources to provide education for all our people. Unfortunately, this is not happening.
Please support us to free Togo.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're indeed watching The Megaway, and my in-studio guest today is Paul Silly, the leader of Uktdm, UK Togolese Diaspora Movement. We're talking about issues happening in Togo now and the lack of stability in Togo. Paul, the president of Togo and his family has been in government since independence. How has this been possible?
That is the same question that we've been asking ourselves for the past 53 years. When we got our independence in 1960, our father of independence, Jean-Sylvanus Olympio, was assassinated with the help of France. And then for his dad, who is Adele-Abodedele Singbe, was imposed on us. He stayed in power until 2005 when he died. That was after 38 years. After his death, his son, now our current president, Fonya Singbe, took over after a military coup. And he's been in power for the past 13 years now. He is in his third term and looking forward for a fourth term. So together, Fonya Singbe and his father, Adele-Abodedele Singbe, have been in power for over half a century. How is that possible? So that is the same questions that we've all been asking. The same question that the majority of Togolese people are asking.
Wow. So what is the situation like in Togo today? Is there are people revolting? Are people just getting on as if this is everyday business?
When Ford took over in 2005, it was after a military coup. He came to power having killed over 500 people. Those people were slaughtered, and this was acknowledged by the international community. He stayed in power. He has been in power since then. Now, our constitution that was voted in 1992 by over 98% of the votes was changed just before he came to power. And within that constitution, there is a sentence that says, in no circumstance shall anyone serve more than 2 terms. That sentence was taken off the constitution so that he can stay in power forever, just like his father. Now, we have been powerless during the whole time, because if you were found to be saying anything against the regime, you either get killed, you either get driven into exile, you get put into prison. So there's been no freedom of speech, and people are afraid to say anything against the regime. But thank God, last year, exactly in August 2017, the 19th of August 2017, one of the leaders of the opposition parties called Uktdm had that boldness to come out and say, listen, this has got to stop. Wow. Enough is enough. 53 years of dictatorship is enough, and there has to be an end to this.
Was that what triggered the people wanting a change of government? Were people just in acceptance? Because when the father was in power, the constitution wasn't changed, yet he remained in power despite that he wasn't supposed to be there. What was the temperature like in Togo at the time? Were people saying to him, you overstayed, come out of office, or were they just getting on with life?
Yes, there was fear. People were fear of their lives. Wow. And people could not challenge the regime. Wow. Because you get killed. It's simple as that. Your family, they will, kill your family overnight. People got put into prison. People have been in prison, since then. So there was fear. That was the word. There was fear. People just got on with, life. People just accepted, the poverty. Wow. And, so
people are speaking out more now.
Yeah.
People are speaking out more today.
With Uktdm, people believed that, everything is possible. We believed that we can. Wow. And the word today, is yes, we can.
Wow. Wow. What happened to him after he spoke out? Where were the regime after him, or did he have to leave Togo? Or?
It's sad to say that Uktdm is now living in a different country. Oh, wow. Because, just like I said, wow. His life is being threatened. Wow. He's not safe anymore in the country. So, unfortunately,
he's had to leave.
He has to leave.
But he continues the revolution from
wherever he is now. He is, with us in harmony, fighting.
Is he in hiding, or is he?
He's hiding, yeah.
So his whereabouts is not to be announced?
Yeah.
Is it that bad?
It is that bad. This regime, came to power without, meriting it. They didn't come to power because of merits. This regime...
They took it by force.
Yeah, came to power, just like some other African leaders, they come to power not because of merits. They come to power, some of them because of affiliation, some of them by heritage, just like the case of Togo, where Faure has come to power, because his dad, so he's come to power by heritage, and, he didn't come to power because of merit.
The people wanted it. Yes. I think what is most important for me is that, consensus of the people, if the people of Togo had said, well, we don't mind this man ruling us forever, that's fine. That's the agreement of the people of Togo. But if they say, we don't want you to rule us, then someone has to listen to them.
Exactly.
You can't forcefully, you can't hold people to ransom to lead them by hook or by crook. I think we must have a choice.
That's right. Just like in this country, for instance, when you have a GP, when you register, you have a GP, for instance, and if you're not happy with your GP, you change your GP. They can't impose the GP on you, and that that's something that's happening in Togo. This man, Faure and his dad have been in power for over 50 years, over half a century. I wasn't even born then, and the majority of the Togolese today are saying, we don't want you. We don't want you.
You know what they say.
Family, wow. We don't want, that's enough. We want to change. We want to change. And that is why today, Togo Debout, Uktdm, the whole diaspora worldwide, Togolese diaspora worldwide is fighting, so hard so that we can, put an end to this.
Wow. Well, are they listening? Do you see there's a dent in them now? Are they more humble now than they were before? Are they feeling the pressure? Do you think this is getting to them, or do you think they're just willing to use violence to continue to maintain the legal power that they hold?
They are definitely feeling the pressure because when the population took to the streets, they fired tear gas amongst them, they shot people dead, they killed children as young as 9, 11, they went to houses, they beat women up, phone people up and things like that. Now, they did that to intimidate us, but that has not stopped us. That has not stopped us. We've continued fighting to the stage where at one point there were more than 1 million people in the capital. Wow. So the government then, went to ECOWAS, which we're part of, and asked them to come and help us. Oh, wow. So ECOWAS then designated 2 head of states, which are Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana, and then the president of Guinea, Alpha Condé, who have been the mediators of this crisis.
Wow. I know the Ghanaian
pressure is going to them.
Good. I know the Ghanaian president is definitely flying the African flag very positively now, because he's been very outspoken in terms of how the relationship between the so-called Western world and Africa should be. Wow. Okay, on that note, let's meet one of the opposition leaders. His name is Uktdm Abia, is the leader of one of the opposition parties in Togo. Enjoy. Okay, we're here because of the current situation in Togo. You've been going around the world trying to sensitize people towards this matter. Tell me, what are the responses you've received in your journeys?
Once again, I want to thank you very much for whatever you are doing to help our fight, our struggle in Togo. It's about 3 weeks I'm in Europe. I'm touring some Europe country to meet our Togolese diaspora, just talking to them about what we are doing on the ground, because we really appreciate what our diaspora are doing over here. They're really helping what we are doing in Togo too, financially too. That's very important for us. So I'm just talking to them, I'm just meeting them to encourage them to stand up to our victory, because this is very important. We cannot fail what we are doing today. So we need them to stand up with us, so that we can be winners tomorrow.
Wow. For so long, one particular family has been ruling Togo. What are some of the consequences of this particular set of people on the Togolese people, in your opinion?
It's 53 years now that only one family are ruling that country. This is very dangerous for us in Togo. And Togo today is the only one non-democratic country in our region, West Africa. So that's the reason why we even have a lot of people out of the country. They don't only come to the Europe or to US. No, you can see us in Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Ghana, etc. So this is very dangerous for our country and for us. This is the reason why we cannot talk about development in Togo. So you cannot talk, before talking to development, you have to talk about democracy. You have to talk about democracy. So right now, Togo is in danger. We have a lot of people. They went to school, but they can't find a job because there's no job in the country. So you have to be a friend of someone to have a good job in Togo.
Well, some people might say that in Africa, a lot of the countries with resources seem to have wars. Have they got backing from perhaps the Western countries who exploit these resources in Africa? Is this why they're able to stay in power for so long?
Ghana just have petrol or gas. Why there is no war in Ghana? Because they have political stability in Ghana. So we cannot blame the white people. No, we have to blame ourselves. It's because our people want to, especially Francophone countries, want to keep the power. That's the reason. If you have resources, you need to help your people with that resources. Your people have to take advantage from that resources. It's not benefit for them. It's not for you, the president. So, in our case, we have a dictatorship. Togo is a very small country, but rich, very rich country. That's it.
Wow. You've been on exile. How is this working for you? How are you fighting for freedom in Togo whilst you are not in Togo?
Oh, no. Before being in exile, I was in prison. I was jailed by the dictator. Yes. And I went to the exile. So I came back to Togo in 2007. Okay. So when I came to Togo, I won the parliamentary election. I was a parliamentarian. After that, I was a parliamentarian, ECOWAS parliamentarian in Abuja for 3 years. Oh, wow. And there I was a chairman of Youth and Labor Commission in ECOWAS Parliament. Wow. So I came back because I'm ready for everything to free my country. Wow. So I don't need to stay outside in my country. No, I need to come back, and I'm back to Togo.
Wow. What are other African countries doing to support this fight in Togo right now?
You know, we have our diaspora in all the countries. So our diaspora are fighting, and we have friends too, especially in Ghana. I want to take advantage from your media to thank Honorable Benamona of Ghana, who has, he just have an organization that's called Togolese organization in Ghana, who is doing great thing in Ghana to help Togolese fight. So we thank him very much for whatever he's doing to help our fight.
Are there any other African countries that are playing a significant role in what's happening in Togo?
Oh, yeah, we want to thank also President Buhari of Nigeria, who decided that Togo must have democracy. He said it clearly. Buhari said, it's enough. Togo need to change. Wow. Yeah.
So what is your message now? What is going to bring this change? If you have to say one thing to our viewers right now for Togo to get to where you want it to be, what would be that thing?
We need our people's help, everyone's help, because this is a very serious case. This is a very serious situation we are facing. This is a 53 years dictatorship. It's not easy. So we need to stand firm. Yeah, we need to stay fire up so we can win this fight.
Okay, Paul, in what you're doing, we talked about some risk earlier, but have you had any direct threats to yourself or any other member of your organization?
Yes, I do receive threats. Just as early as this morning, I received a phone call from a lady, anonymous phone call, and they ask you, some questions, and they don't want to reveal themselves. The number doesn't appear on your phone, and when you ask them questions, they don't want to answer. My family back home, I know it's not very safe. November last year, my brother, was caught in the rallies. He was beaten up. They broke his leg. He ended up in hospital.
Yes. Did they know it was linked to you? Was it picked up and
yes.
Oh wow.
So I know what the risks are, but like I said, I knew what I was getting myself into, and I know I'm doing it for Togo. Wow. So I'm happy to carry on.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay, we also talk about this situation in Africa, not just Togo, but quite a few African countries are suffering the same. We're also aware that the Western world benefits from the disadvantage of Africa, because from the resources perspective and the extraction of resources, the destabilization of Africa is to their advantage. Why can't Africa come together to see this as an African problem, to try and resolve this as an African problem? Are you getting enough support from Africa?
This is, one of the aims of this movement, the Uktdm and Togo-Debout, in general. Because like I alluded earlier, a lot or most of our African leaders, came to power without, meriting it. They came to power because they were imposed on us. And, they came to power to get rich. They didn't come to power to serve their people. They didn't come to power to serve their continent. They came to power because, they want to get rich and they don't want to work, getting rich. And doing so, they sell our country and its natural resources, to the West, to the West, to the colonialists, which is really sad that in the 21st century, this is still going on. Our African leaders have got to understand that, if we want to change on the African continent, then, there have to be, some sort of accountability. Some of the key characteristics of successful organizations or countries, is honesty and accountability. Our African leaders, are not honest to each other. They don't hold each other to account, yet they want some change. And, and that's why I keep saying, until our African leaders, start holding each other to account, until they become honest to each other, then we might as well stop this fight, because we failed even before we started. With regards to the West, when Uktdm came about, and before our first protest, we wrote to the Prime Minister, Theresa May. We wrote to the leader of the opposition party, Jeremy Corbyn. We wrote to the Foreign Commonwealth. And the responses, are really, really disappointing. Again, I'm afraid to say that, we thought, these people, will be helping us. But, they're not. They're not, because those people in power, our leaders, were imposed by them. Because,
yes. They're funding them. They fund
them.
most of these people.
They're funding them, so they don't want to help us. Wow. They don't want to help us. It's sad for me to sit here and say that despite all this that has been going on since the 19th, of August last year, where hundreds of Togolese people have been killed, people, are now living in Ghana as refugees, a lot of people put into prison, Despite all this going on, can you believe that the French government, is still keeping its military relationships with Togo? They still taking on Togolese, military personnel into France to train them. Wow. How do you understand that? Wow. So these people are not, they don't want to help us. They are our enemies.
Well, they are training them to ensure that they maintain the current status quo, But have you had any relationship with the French government in an attempt to see how you can have talks to kind of negotiate a peaceful outcome for Togo?
Our brothers and sisters in France, the Togo-Debout collective have done a massive job, and still doing some good job over there, and they have met with the French authorities to try and ask them to help us in our struggle. But again, the responses have been really little, and it's got to the stage where we have to do it for ourselves. We can't rely on the West anymore. if we want this to change. We can't. We have to do it ourselves.
Wow. Wow. So they haven't come on board to say, let's look at this as a problem. We're willing to work with your organization and Togo and others to make Togo a free and safe place for the Togolese people. The French government did not say that when you met with them.
No.
They didn't want to cooperate.
No. Very recently, Emmanuel Macron was in Nigeria. He was in Canada as well. And one of our brothers, I think, in Canada, met with him and was asking him some key questions. And his response was, the African Union, is dealing with the Togolese issue. So again, you can see he is sending, everything back to us. The French government is saying, this has nothing to do with us. If you want to bring change to your African continent, then you have to bring that change yourself. It's nothing to do with us. So again, we need to understand this. We need to understand that we've got to the stage where we African people have got to come together. The problems that Togo is facing now, it's not just a Togolese issue. See what's happening in Cameroon, very recently, where this baby, and his mom, were shot dead. These problems that are happening in Togo today, can affect the whole region. And that is why I salute the president of the Republic of Nigeria, Mr. Buhari, who came out publicly and said, there's got to be an end to this. This nonsense has got to stop. Because if it doesn't stop, then it is going to affect the whole region.
Wow. Well, I'm sure Nigerians would have some stuff to say about Buhari saying that, because there are probably issues around this country that would need attention as well. On that note, let's share with our viewers some of the protests organized by Uktdm.
We are frustrated. Our patience is running out. There is no need to remind you and your government about the tyranny, the killings, and human rights abuses perpetrated by your friend Ford Nasimbe, a self-proclaimed president of Togo, since you, the elected French authorities, are helping and arming him to commit those crimes against his own people. Why are you still supporting him? Why wouldn't you condemn those crimes? We are frustrated. It is futile to remind you and your government that France is behind every single dictator in the Francophone Africa. France calls them its friends. No need to remind you that France's friend is a monster supported by France. How do the countries of Voltaire, Montesquieu, Sartre, and Camus support such individuals? France should be ashamed of himself.
Shame on you, France!
Shame on you, France!
Freedom, Togo! Freedom, Togo! Freedom, Togo!
Okay, welcome back, wonderful people. We are beginning our wrap-up very shortly. But before then, I'd like to find out from Paul. We had talked about support from the Western world. You've written to a few key institutions, and you expected a bit more from them. And it's not as forthcoming as you expected. What about the media houses? What about your CNNs? What about the BBCs? Because this is definitely newsworthy, and one would expect this is the sort of news they would want to share with the world in order to bring an end to all the crises they lead us to believe they really want to bring an end to.
I would like to take this opportunity to say a big thank you to people like you, who, put your, your lives out there, to try and raise awareness, of what is happening on the African continent. When we put on those protests last year, we invited the BBC, we invited, other media, but none of them came. None of them came. And it is sad. It is sad that what is happening in Togo now is similar to what happened in Zambia. Now, when those things were happening in Zambia, we saw it on BBC. So what is the difference between Zambia and Togo? Is it because Togo was a former French colony? We're the same people. So it is disappointing and sad that, despite the fact that we've invited, people to come and, cover, the footages, the protests and all the meetings, so that people can be more aware of what is happening. We had a little response.
Wow,
yes.
Wow. Okay, and for those who supported you, your members and any other institution who is for peace in Africa and indeed the world, what would you like to say to them?
A very big thank you to, everyone out there, all the Togolese people, the Togolese diaspora, the Ghanaian diaspora, the Cameroon diaspora. A lot of people, came from different countries to support us, during our first protest where we had about 300 people. So for me, I just wanted to say a big thank you, to everyone for responding, to our call and supporting us. Okay, not just during the protest, but financially. People supported us financially. We had some fundraising sessions, and a lot of people supported us. We were able to then send money and goods to the refugees that were living in Ghana, the people that were wounded in Togo, that were in hospital. We were able to send money back home, so they can be looked after. So all I can say is a big thank you to everyone out there that have understood, everyone that has understood what is happening in Togo and are ready to help in any way, shape or form.
Okay. Before you go, I also want to know from you. You have a march on Monday at the Ghana High Commission. Just tell us a bit about that, and why have you chosen the Ghanaian High Commission for this march?
Yeah. We have got to understand, us again, the African community, that what is happening in countries like Togo, is nowadays it will be called a neo-colonialism, which is for me the worst form of imperialism, whereby we have been exploited by our own people. Macron said the African issue has to be there by the Africans. Why have we chosen the Ghanaian embassy? This is because the president of the Republic of Ghana was chosen as one of the mediators to help solve this Togolese crisis and get out of what is happening in Togo. And I've often said it's all well, for people to go out there and put on some good speeches and say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But for me, it's about time that those people walk the walk. They've talked the talk for so long. It's time for them to walk the walk. We've chosen to go to the Ghanaian embassy on Monday, the 30th of July, because the following day, which is the 31st of July, the ECOWAS, which we're part of, is coming out with a roadmap, a suggested roadmap for us, the Togolese people, that is going to help us come out of this crisis. Wow. So we are going to the embassy to ask Nana Akufo-Addo and the ECOWAS that whatever they come out with on the 31st is what the Togolese people want. It's what the majority of the Togolese people want. Wow. It has to be, what the majority wants, not what, a minority, that has been ruling the country for over half a century wants. It's what the majority wants. So that is why we've chosen to go to, the Ghanaian embassy and say to them, well, listen, we appreciate, the time, the effort and everything that you have done and you are still doing, to help us come out of this crisis. But just, think, before proposing this roadmap, just think that, this is in the best interest of the majority of the Togolese people.
Now, Paul had the opportunity to thank Adele-Abodedele, leader of one of the opposition parties in Togo, for all the hard work, all the support he's putting towards the freedom of Togo. Enjoy.
I would like to thank my brother, Nicodem Habia, who has visited us today all the way from Togo to come and talk to the diaspora here and sensitize them so that we can work together and free our dear country that has been under the dictatorship of Faure Gnassingbé and his mafia system, Epete Unil. Nicodem, it's a big pleasure hosting you today. I can't thank you enough. Can't thank you enough for the work that you're doing, for the whole community, for the Togolese people back home and in the diaspora. Really pray that, God bless you, God give you the strength, the energy that you need so that together we can win this battle. Thanks once again.
Okay, welcome back. Indeed, to be fighting for freedom is quite an intensive thing, and it takes a powerful character. Once again, well done to Nicodem, well done to Paul for all the good work they're doing. Now, Paul, we're going to be rounding up. Before we do that, I want to find out from you, is there anything you want to say? Just a general message before we close the show today.
Yes, I've got two messages actually. My first message goes to the ECOWAS, who are preparing to propose this roadmap on the 31st of July this year to the Togolese people. And my message to them that, they need to listen to the deepest aspirations of the Togolese people. Togo has to cease being permanent exception in the ECOWAS Union. My second message goes to all the freedom fighters out there, the Togolese freedom fighters, the African freedom fighters. Thomas Edison once said, failures are the people who gave up not knowing how close they are to victory. We are ever close to victory, and we just need to keep the flame alive and keep believing in ourselves. The message is, yes, we can.
Listen, Paul, thank you so much for being with me, and thank you for all the good work you've been doing. I wish you success. I wish freedom to Togo, and indeed freedom to the whole of Africa. Once again, thanks for joining me today on the show.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure having me. I should be thanking you for all the good work, and I wish you good luck in all the good work that you do for the African continent. Once again, thank you.
Thank you. Well, viewers, as they say, every good thing has to come to an end. Yesterday's show has come to that point. But for me, African freedom is something we shouldn't even be negotiating in the world we live in today. Whatever you're able to do, whatever contribution you can make towards any positiveness on our continent, I urge you to do so. Whatever you do, be good, be safe, remain on the Mega Way.